most of the deaths of our bees are related to the Varroa. Hi everyone, Byron Martin here at Logee's Greenhouses. One of my other passions along with plants is beekeeping, and I would say that I have as much enthusiasm for the bees as I do the plants, and they are very well and very much connected. And I can say that in beekeeping, when you stop beekeeping, you will connect with plants even if you're not a plant person. So both of them are great things to do. And today we're going to be talking about testing for Varroa mite. This is for folks that have bees and want to keep their bees alive. We've got a little girl here that's a little testy. We just went through a hive here, so it riled them up a little bit. And temperament is something that moves in between hives. They all have their own character, you might say. So anyway, hope you enjoy it, and again, get something out of it. Today we're going to be doing a mite wash. I had promised this to many people, and because of the COVID restrictions here and not having gatherings, I'm going to try to do a video of it to show you how to do it and some of the tools that we use for that purpose. So basically, Varroa is a major problem in honeybees, we all know that, and you really, to control them and manage them, you really need to monitor your mite load. And generally what I do is at least 3 times a year I go in and I test for the Varroic, and that's the mites that are on the adult bees, the Varroic mite load in the colony. And then when we reach threshold, we will do treatments. This time of year the threshold can be a little bit higher than what you might expect because they're still growing very rapidly, and colonies can handle a little bit higher mite load. But there's that period at the end of August, 1st of September, when your winter bees are being made, and you really got to get it down below 3%, and I would recommend probably bringing it down to 2. There's so much problem with the virus vectoring that's going on. So to do that, we have some different tools. This is a commercially made washer. It's called Varroa Easy Check. You can buy that through most of the bee supply houses, and they were running around somewhere $20 because you got a bit of shipping on it. But it's all made for you, and you can just take it out of the box and use it. This is a homemade one out of different plastic containers. That's 1/8" hardware or screen that you need to use so that the bees can't fall through, but the mites can. And then you use 2 of these to hold it. Got a cover so that you can contain your alcohol once you're done. And then this is the one that I actually use for my work, and it's really old, been used a lot. This is a couple of honey jars and some screens that insert screens you put on there. I've put that bottom on it like that. And this one here, the bottom is so badly damaged you can't even count the mites on the bottom of it. But as I'll show you, I actually use a screen to wash out the mites and then save the alcohol. So it all works out. So this is probably the easiest thing to do if you're into being handy and you can get some screen. You can make a homemade one. If you're not doing a lot of hives, these cheap ones actually hold up just as well. We also have a couple of other things here. We have this bucket. This is the washing, or the bucket we put the bees in. Have a half a cup scoop. I have my screen, and because my eyes are getting older, I have a magnifier to count the mites. So let me put my veil on here because you never like getting stung in the face, and the bees can do that. So this colony here has been here for probably about 8 years, and it has for the last 4 years not been treated. It's had a mite-resistant queen in it. She's been not a great honey producer, but she doesn't need treatment, and she's going into her 4th year, so she may be gone by now. She was here this spring when I looked in, but once the genetic changes, then all of that resistance shifts too, and it can go either way. Usually it goes down, mainly because of the drone populations we have in the area. The first thing we do is we're going to take off the honey supers, and we've had a extremely heavy spring flow here this spring. It's really been kind of an epic spring flow, and the supers are full and they are heavy. There's some burr comb with honey in it. That's always yummy to eat. Now, what we're going to do is go down into the brood nest. That's where we will find nurse bees, which we test. So when you do the testing, you want to make sure that you're consistent with what you do. These guys have a little bit of an edge to them. So we might give them a little bit of smoke there. Queen excluder off. So we're going to look for the brood nest, try to find out where she is laying. And of course, a critical thing in this whole process is not to wash your queen, because we're going to kill, actually, unfortunately, we're going to kill about 300 bees to do the test. And although it's not a really good thing to do to bees, it's going to actually allow us to know where we're going and be able to save this colony if the mite load is getting too high. And most of the deaths of our bees are related to the Varroa. So there's a frame of brood. She's laying pretty good. And we can actually, look, there's a little bit of balding there going on where they've chewed the cappings off. Another spot over here. That's a trait of the VSHB, part of the mechanism for keeping the Varroa load down. And so we need to look for her. I don't see her on this frame, and that's not exactly the frame that I consistently wash. I try to get one with a little more open brood on it. The nurse bees congregate on the open brood as they take care of the baby bees. That's not a bad frame. There's quite a bit of open brood in it. So this would be the frame that we're going to choose. There she is. She's right there, and she doesn't have, there she is right there. See there, the retinate is, her court is surrounding her, and she is, doesn't have her little yellow dot on her, so that queen is gone. And this actually creates a new hive, because now the genetics have shifted to this new queen and who she mated with, and the drones that she mated with. And so we'll put it back in there off this frame, because we're going to wash that one. Now the old queen could actually still be in here. Sometimes it's gone through a supersedure, by the way. This didn't swarm, so the old queen could actually still be back in here, and they'll live together for a while. And we probably just want to take a quick look here, make sure that she's probably not on the same frame. Although she could be, you never know about bees. Actually, this is a great frame to show pollen. There's tons of pollen coming in at this time of year. You see all the colors in there. And there's an entrance right here, so they often pack it in right next to the entrance, being as efficient as they can, of course. So there's our frame we're going to wash. And then what I do is take my tub like so, and we get our, I'll actually use this. This is probably the one most people will get a hold of, so I'll use this to do the washing in. I have had the bees, the mites, not fall through this kind of coarse screen on this one, but for the most part, a lot of people use it, and I'm sure it works quite well. So then we just take the frame like this, and you can do a couple things. Hold it lengthwise, because you're going to drop them all in there. We just give it a really hard jar like that, and the field bees will actually fly off, and you see in here we have the nurse bees that are left. And then we just give it a jar like that, where we're going to bring them down into the corner, take a scoop, level it off, and dump it into our tub. And we can put these guys, or girls, back in their hive. And now we can put our hive back together again. I've got some irritated bees flying around my head here. This hive always does that. That's a genetic trait of temperament, and it can actually change with the queen, so it could actually get a little more festy with the new queen in there. We'll watch this over a period of time. So then we take our Varroa washer and we're going to give it a shake. And now what happens is the Varroa mites, those are the mites that are on the adult bees, will be killed, and they will fall right off the bee quickly. They drop right off, and now by putting them in this tub here, we will have them fall to the bottom, and this is the place where you count them. So there we look at the bottom here, and we have no mites. We have one. There's actually one right there, and maybe there's two. So we have two mites. And I would probably shake this a little more. Randy Oliver actually did a test on this. This is 70% isopropyl alcohol, and he actually found that 90% will drop them quicker. So you don't have to do so much shaking on it. I kind of, by the time you dump them in and you put in the hive back together and give them a couple shakes, they've been in the alcohol solution for quite some time. So we will look, if we can look up in there, there's one there, and I don't know where number 2 went. That might be just a piece of dirt. So the next thing we need to do is save our alcohol, because in this day and age, alcohol is really hard to come by. You go to the store, every time you go to the store, you go to the shelf and it's empty, of course, because everybody's trying to take care of themselves. So we're going to save our alcohol here. And strain it through a strainer. And actually, when you use this strainer, you can actually see the mites better. Yeah, that was a piece of dirt. So there's one mite right there, a little brown spot. And if you are concerned about it, in the sense that you can actually use a magnifier to get in there and really look at them. And when you have a high mite count, and you've got many in there, this is very low, so that's 0.3%. At that level, there's hardly any mites in the hive. And with this being a super seizure of the mother, the original bees, her original bees are still in there doing their work. And this hive has never gone over 2% in the 4 years that she's been around. So, so this doesn't need treatment. But what you do is you go in there and count, and then divide it by 3, and that'll give you a percentage. There's 300 bees in a cup, in a half a cup, and I've actually counted them out of the half a cup, and it's very close. So this is all just an estimate to get an idea where you are. This hive doesn't need to be treated, obviously, and I will do another test on this hive when we get down to the end of August, and I'll do another test at the end of September. And at that time, you can find hives that suddenly exploded. They were clean or very low when you were in late August, 1st of September, and by the time you get to the end of September, for some reason, the mite level can jump up. And that is critical in making sure that your hives are not going into winter with a heavy mite load. As far as treating goes, I use formic acid pads. Formic Pro is what they're selling right now. It's hard on the bees, but you can use it with the honey supers on, and it doesn't contaminate your hive. Whenever you use Formic Pro or the formic acid, you want to make sure you, or any of them, you want to make sure you, if you've got a test, if you've got a treat, you want to make sure you go in and retest a week or so afterwards to make sure that the treatment worked. If you wash your bees, test for mites, treat when the thresholds get too high, and as I said, in September you want to be below 3%. 1st of September you want to be below 3%. You can get, and of course you have other things correct in your hive, like your queen right, there's a healthy queen in there, and you've got stores your losses should be somewhere between 5 and 10%. But we'll redo this with my washer and see if we get any more out of it. Just for experimentation. Save that alcohol. You'd be surprised how much you can go through when you start doing every hive going down the row. And it's clean. No mites. Good deal. All right, anyway, thank you. This is going out in an email, so you can certainly contact me if you have any questions. She's trying to pull her stinger out. No, she can't get away. And so the stinger's left. You want to go sideways with it. Don't ever pinch it.